In the beginning, in the realm of creation, there are truths hidden so deeply that they are almost impossible to fathom. But what if I told you what we have always believed about the Genesis story, about the beginning of humanity, may not be the full truth? Could it be that God created not one but two distinct humanities? A spiritual lineage, created in his image, and a more earthly, imperfect humanity formed from dust. Why does the Bible, the sacred text we've trusted for centuries, seem to present two different creation stories in the first two chapters of Genesis? Could it be that this is not a contradiction, but a divine secret, kept hidden for millennia, waiting for this very moment to be uncovered? What if the answers to these questions could transform your understanding of who you are, where you come from, and your very purpose in this life? Imagine the truth about Adam, Eve, Cain, and the other humans mentioned in Genesis could change everything you thought you knew about the Bible and your existence. In this video, you will learn the stunning reality of two humanities, two lineages, two purposes, and the deep spiritual meaning behind the creation of man. We will explore why the story of Adam and Eve, often misunderstood, actually reveals a profound truth about the divine blueprint for mankind, something that has been hidden for centuries. You will understand why the existence of another humanity, created by Elohim, predates Adam and Eve, and how this changes everything. What if your soul originates from the first humanity, the one created in light, the Adam Kadmon, and you have been sent to this world with a divine purpose? Or perhaps you are part of the earthly humanity, molded from clay, tested in this world of trials. We will delve into these mysteries, connecting them to the ancient wisdom of the Bible, and show how these ideas shape your destiny. This is not just a spiritual exploration. It is a call to awaken the divine truth within you. Do you feel it? The call to awaken your true self, to remember your divine origin, and embrace the spiritual journey that was meant for you. As we unravel these hidden secrets, you will find a deeper connection to the world around you, the divine purpose of your existence, and the spiritual awakening that is waiting for you. Stay tuned, for what you are about to discover will shake the very foundation of your beliefs. In the opening chapters of Genesis, we are presented with what appears to be two separate accounts of creation. This duplication, often dismissed as a poetic repetition, could in fact be a powerful message, a divine mystery hidden in plain sight. The first creation, presented in Genesis 1, introduces Elohim, the mighty creator who speaks the universe into existence, declaring, "Let there be light." In this passage, human beings are created as male and female, in the image of God, without the need for physicality or material substance. The act of creation is pure, spiritual, emanating from the divine essence itself. This is the creation of the spiritual humanity, the Adam Kadmon, an ethereal being of light, reflecting the perfect image of God. There are no names, no Eden, no limitations, just light, just spirit, just pure divine will. But as we move into Genesis 2, the tone shifts dramatically. Here, the Creator, now called YHWH, or Yahweh, a more intimate and personal manifestation of God, gets his hands dirty, shaping man from the dust of the earth. He breathes life into Adam's nostrils, a more tactile, physical creation. Eve is formed from Adam's rib, making her the companion, the partner in this earthly realm. This second creation is different. It's material, it's bound by physical limitations, and it's the birth of a humanity that will walk, feel, suffer, and ultimately fall. Why is this shift in creation so significant? Could it be that these two distinct accounts of creation, one spiritual and the other material, are not just poetic devices or mere repetition? What if they are a divine revelation, pointing to the truth that God created two distinct humanities, two lineages, two purposes, and two paths. One was created from light, eternal and free. The other was formed from the dust, bound to the earth, tested and fallen. This deeper understanding begins to answer the long-debated question, why is it that when Adam is created, he is placed in the Garden of Eden, while the creation in Genesis 1 is sent out into the world? The answer lies in the dual nature of humanity. The humans created in Genesis 1 were sent to fill the earth, to multiply, and to have dominion over it. They were not confined to any garden. Their purpose was cosmic, to inhabit and rule the world. These were the children of Elohim, the divine image-bearers, spiritual beings created to reflect the light of God. But Adam and Eve, created in Genesis 2, were placed in Eden, a specific place, and given a specific mission. They were to tend and keep the garden. They were set apart, not to rule the world, but to guard and care for a sacred space. This distinction between the two creations, the spiritual and the material, is not just a theological curiosity. It has deep, profound implications for our understanding of who we are as human beings. In fact, it raises a question that many of us never dared to ask. What if, within each of us, there are two natures, one that is divine, eternal, and connected to the light of Elohim, and another that is earthy, physical, and connected to the dust from which we came? What if our lives here on earth are not just about surviving or thriving, but about awakening to the truth of our divine origin and remembering our true nature? This leads us to the mystery of Cain. After Cain kills his brother Abel, he is marked and cast away, wandering. But here's the strange part. Cain says, "Anyone who finds me will kill me." But who is there to find him? If Adam, Eve, and Abel were the only ones on earth, how could Cain fear for his life? This is the key that unlocks the deeper understanding of Genesis. There must have been another group of humans created by Elohim before Adam and Eve, and it is from this group that Cain feared retribution. These people were created on the sixth day in the image of Elohim, but they were not the same as Adam and Eve. They were the children of the light, and they populated the earth. Now, this idea that there were other humans before Adam and Eve might sound strange at first, but it actually helps make sense of the contradictions and oddities we see in the Bible. These humans, created by Elohim, were not placed in Eden. They were sent out into the world with a different purpose. They were not meant to be tested in the same way Adam and Eve were. They were not meant to face the trials of free will, sin, and redemption. These were the first creations, spiritual beings sent to inhabit the earth, while Adam and Eve represented the second creation, a creation bound by the physical world with all its limitations, choices, and trials. The story of Cain and Abel is not just the story of jealousy and murder, it's the story of two different humanity lines, the children of Elohim and the children of the earth. And when Cain says, "Anyone who finds me will kill me," he's not just worried about his parents or his brother. He's worried about the other humanity that existed before him, the spiritual lineage that had already spread across the earth, a lineage that might not understand his actions or his choices. This understanding sheds light on another strange aspect of the Genesis narrative. Cain finds a wife. But where did she come from? The Bible doesn't tell us explicitly, but it hints at the existence of a population outside the immediate family of Adam and Eve. Cain's wife must have come from the humanity that existed before the fall of Adam and Eve, those created on the sixth day, as described in Genesis chapter 1. This idea is supported by ancient texts, such as the writings of the Kabbalists and certain Gnostic traditions, which speak of two distinct creations, one spiritual and one earthly. But what does all of this mean for us today? It means that we, as human beings, are caught between two natures. One is divine, the image of Elohim, spiritual, eternal, and pure. The other is earthly, formed from dust, imperfect, mortal, and bound to the trials of the material world. Each day we must choose which nature we will feed. The tension between these two natures is at the core of the human experience. We are constantly torn between the pull of the spiritual and the demands of the physical. And this is where the true power of Genesis lies, not in the creation stories themselves, but in what they reveal about the struggle between our spiritual and earthly selves. Every decision we make, every action we take, is a reflection of this inner battle. Will we choose to live as the children of light, connected to our divine origin, or will we succumb to the limitations of the earthly, material world, forgetting who we are and where we came from? This is why the Garden of Eden was not just a physical place, but a spiritual space, a place where the soul of humanity was meant to awaken to its true nature. And it is in the struggle, the fall, and the redemption of Adam and Eve that we find the ultimate story of human transformation. The fall is not a tragic ending. It is the beginning of the journey back to the light. It is a reminder that while we may be bound by the dust of the earth, we are still connected to the eternal light of Elohim, and our journey is one of remembering, of awakening, and of returning to the divine essence from which we came. As we explore this deeper understanding of Genesis, we begin to see that the Bible is not just a collection of ancient stories. It is a map of the human soul, a guide to navigating the tension between the material and the spiritual. It shows us the way back to the light, the way home to our true nature. And as we awaken to this truth, we begin to see the world in a new light, a world that is not just physical but spiritual, a world where we are not alone but connected to a higher purpose, a higher calling. So as you continue your journey through life, remember this: within you lies the essence of both humanities, the divine and the earthly. The choice is yours. Which will you feed? Which will you awaken? The path to your true self begins with the realization that you are not just dust. You are light, waiting to shine once more. In Genesis, the Garden of Eden stands as one of the most profound symbols in the Bible, yet it holds layers of meaning often overlooked. To most, it seems like a place of paradise, a beautiful garden where Adam and Eve dwelled in innocence before their fall. But what if Eden wasn't just a simple garden, but a deeper spiritual realm, a space designed for revelation, choice, and spiritual evolution? What if the fall was not just a tragic consequence, but a necessary step toward awakening to our true nature? The story of Adam and Eve isn't merely a tale about the beginning of humanity, but rather the beginning of spiritual awareness and choice. In Eden, Adam and Eve were not just in a lush garden, they were in a sacred space designed for their spiritual growth. It was here that they encountered the dual nature of existence, the physical and the spiritual, the light and the darkness. They were given the freedom to choose, but in their choice they fell. And yet the fall is not merely punishment. It is a step forward in the great spiritual journey of mankind. This fall, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, was not the end of their story. It was a moment of awakening. They moved from a state of pure innocence, where everything was provided for them, to a state of knowledge and responsibility. They learned about themselves, about the world, and about their own choices. This shift from innocence to awareness is a powerful spiritual metaphor for the human condition. We too are often placed in a garden, a space of comfort and security, but it is only when we face the duality of life, light and shadow, good and evil, that we truly begin to grow. And this duality is not just an abstract concept. It is a living, breathing part of our experience. We experience this daily. In every decision, in every encounter, we are faced with the choice between the light of our divine nature and the shadows of our earthly existence. It is in these moments that we either remember who we truly are or forget. The fall was never about punishment. It was about awakening. It was about stepping into the fullness of human experience, where we learn, grow, and ultimately return to the light from which we came. The story of the fall shows us that our journey on earth is not about avoiding mistakes or staying in a perfect state of innocence. It is about embracing the dual nature of our existence. In the garden, Adam and Eve were not prepared for this duality. They had no concept of good and evil, of choice and consequence. But the moment they ate from the tree of knowledge, they stepped into a new level of awareness. They became aware of their own vulnerability, their own capacity to choose, and with that knowledge came the burden of responsibility. This is where we, as human beings, often find ourselves. We are born into a world of duality. We are given the freedom to choose, but with that freedom comes the weight of responsibility, and often we make choices that lead us away from the light. We may fall into fear, into doubt, into judgment, into self-absorption. But the lesson from Eden is clear. Falling is not the end. It is a part of the process. The fall is not a failure. It is an opportunity to remember who we truly are and to make the choice to return to the light. In this journey, we are not alone. The story of Eden is not just a story of Adam and Eve. It is our story. Each of us is born into this world with the same choices they faced, to live in the light of our divine nature, or to be swayed by the temptations of the material world. And just like Adam and Eve, we will fall. But in that falling, we are not abandoned. Instead, we are given the chance to rise again, to awaken to our true nature, and to return to the divine. But this journey requires something more than just awareness. It requires action. The fall, though an awakening, is also a call to redemption. Redemption doesn't come from avoiding mistakes or trying to remain perfect. It comes from the willingness to confront our mistakes, to learn from them, and to rise again. The story of Adam and Eve doesn't end with their expulsion from the garden. It continues with their journey toward redemption. The fall is the beginning of the return to the light. As we journey through life, we too will face the choice between light and darkness, good and evil, freedom and bondage. The story of Eden is not about escaping the world or denying our human nature. It is about embracing our divine essence while living fully in the world. It is about making the choice every day to live from the light within us. And when we fall, as we inevitably will, it is not a sign of failure, but a reminder of our potential for growth, for healing, for transformation. This is the deeper meaning of Eden, the garden of choice, the garden of awareness, the garden of growth. And this is the gift of the fall, the opportunity to awaken to our true nature, to remember who we are, and to return to the light of our Creator. It is not a tragedy, but a divine invitation, a call to step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. We must remember that the dual nature of our existence is not something to fear. It is not something to fight against. It is a part of who we are, a part of the journey we are all on. And just as Adam and Eve were not abandoned in their fall, neither are we. We are loved, we are held, and we are always being called back to the light. So when we face our own falls, when we make mistakes, when we stumble, when we feel lost, it is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new chapter, the opportunity for redemption, for awakening, and for growth. This is the essence of the journey of humanity: to fall, to rise, to remember, and to return. Just as Adam and Eve were given the chance to redeem themselves, so too are we. And the path to redemption is through awakening, awakening to our divine nature, awakening to the light within us, and making the choice to live from that light every single day. The story of Eden is not just a story of the past. It is a story of the present, and it is the story of each and every one of us. We are all on this journey, and the choices we make every single day are what shape our destiny. Will we live from the light of our divine origin, or will we be swayed by the darkness of the world? The choice is ours, and with every choice, we are either returning to the light or drifting further away from it. But remember, even when we fall, we are never truly lost. We are always being called back to the light, to the love, to the truth of who we really are. And that, dear friend, is the true story of Eden, the journey of the soul, the return to the light, and the awakening of the divine within. As we reflect on the story of Adam and Eve, it becomes evident that the fall from Eden is not merely a moment of loss, but a profound turning point. It is a moment that defines the spiritual journey of all humanity, one that continues to unfold in our lives today. When Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, they were not abandoned. They were set upon a path, a journey that each of us must undertake in our own way. This journey, though fraught with trials and tribulations, is ultimately a journey of redemption and awakening. The essence of the human experience is to remember, to return to the light from which we came, and to reconcile the dual nature within us, the divine and the earthly. Adam and Eve in their fall began this journey. They were the first to taste the bitterness of choice, of free will, the kind of choice that opens us to both the light and the darkness. But this was also the beginning of their awakening to the reality that they were not merely physical beings. They were spiritual beings with a profound connection to the divine. As we face our own lives, we often encounter moments of failure, moments when we feel like we have fallen far from the light, far from the purity and innocence of the garden. Yet the story of Adam and Eve teaches us that these moments are not the end of our story. They are the beginnings of new chapters in our spiritual journey. Each fall, each mistake, is an invitation to rise higher, to remember more clearly who we are, and to reconnect with the divine within us. This is the paradox of the human experience. We are both perfect in our divine essence, and yet imperfect in our earthly manifestation. We are both children of light and creatures of dust. And in this duality lies our purpose. It is not to escape the material world or to deny our humanity, but to find the divine within it, to recognize that our imperfections are not failures, but opportunities for growth. Every challenge we face, every struggle, is a chance to learn, to heal, and to awaken to the truth of our existence. The story of Adam and Eve, then, is not just about their fall. It is about the human journey itself, one of trial, awakening, and ultimately, redemption. When we reflect on the expulsion from Eden, we can see that it was not a punishment, but a pivotal moment of transformation. They were no longer in a garden of innocence, but in the world, a world filled with both beauty and suffering, joy and pain. It is in this world that we learn to make choices, to embrace the duality within us, and to seek the light that resides within the darkness. The path of redemption begins with the recognition that we are not just our earthly bodies or our physical lives. We are spiritual beings, made in the image of Elohim, and we are here on this earth to remember our divine nature. The journey of redemption is one of awakening, where we reclaim the light that was hidden within us. It is not a journey to perfection, but one of healing and growth, a journey where we are constantly reminded of our spiritual essence. We are often told that the story of the fall is about the consequences of sin. But what if it's about something deeper? What if the fall is a necessary part of our spiritual awakening? It is through the experience of imperfection, through the darkness, that we come to understand the light. Without the fall, there would be no need for redemption. Without the struggle, there would be no growth. Without the journey, there would be no awakening. In the same way that Adam and Eve were sent out of Eden to begin their journey in the world, we, too, must leave the safety of the garden of our innocence and face the challenges of the world. It is through these challenges that we learn who we truly are. It is through the struggles, the falls, and the rises that we discover the light within us. And just as Adam and Eve were given the promise of redemption, we too are given that promise. The path to redemption is not a straight line, nor is it an easy one. It is a journey that takes us through darkness, through struggle, and through pain. But it is also a journey that brings us closer to the light, closer to our divine nature. So what does it mean to be human? To be human is to walk this path of duality, to embrace both the light and the dark, the divine and the earthly. It is to recognize that we are not perfect, but we are loved. It is to understand that our falls are not failures, but opportunities for growth. It is to know that the journey is not about escaping the world or denying our humanity, but about finding the divine within it, about awakening to the truth of who we are. The fall of Adam and Eve was not the end of their story, and it is not the end of our story either. We too have fallen. We too are faced with the choice between light and darkness, between our divine nature and our earthly limitations. But the promise of redemption is always there, waiting for us to awaken to it. Just as Adam and Eve were given the opportunity to rise again, we too are given that opportunity. And it is through this rise that we come to know the truth of our existence, that we are not just human, but divine. We are not just of the earth, but of the light. And the journey we are on is one of remembering, one of awakening, and ultimately, one of returning to the light that is our true home. In this journey, we are not alone. Just as Adam and Eve were not alone in their fall, we are not alone in ours. We are all on this journey together, walking through the darkness, reaching for the light. And in every step, we are moving closer to the truth of who we are. Children of the light, made in the image of Elohim, destined to return to the source of all light. This is the promise of redemption, the promise that the fall is not the end, but the beginning of a journey back to the light, back to the divine. And as we walk this path, we are reminded that no matter how far we fall, no matter how lost we may feel, we are always being called back to the light. The journey is long, but the destination is worth it, and in the end, we will all return to the light, for that is where we belong. As we come to the close of this journey through the mysteries of Genesis, it's important to pause and reflect on the power and significance of the path we are all walking. The story of Adam and Eve, though ancient, holds timeless wisdom that speaks to each of us on a deeply personal level. Their fall from the garden was not the end of their journey, but the beginning of a profound spiritual awakening, an awakening that we too are called to experience in our own lives. In their journey, we see our own, the struggle, the choices, the falls, and the rise again. But above all, we see the invitation to return to the light, to awaken to our true nature, and to remember the divine essence within us. The truth revealed in Genesis, that we are both children of light and of dust, reminds us that we are never just one thing. We are not bound by the limitations of the material world. We are spiritual beings, born from the light of Elohim, and our journey is one of rediscovering that light. Just as Adam and Eve's story was one of trial and redemption, so too is ours. We will face challenges, we will fall, but it is in the rising again, in the awakening to the truth of who we are, that we find our true purpose. We were never meant to remain in the darkness of ignorance. We were always meant to rise into the fullness of our divine inheritance. In your life, as in the story of Adam and Eve, there will be moments when you face darkness. There will be times when you feel lost, when the weight of your choices seems too much to bear. But remember, the fall was never the end. It was always the beginning of something greater. It was the moment when Adam and Eve were given the opportunity to choose, to learn, to awaken. And in the same way, You are being called to choose to rise above the challenges, to awaken to the truth within, and to return to the light that you are destined to reflect. It's easy to forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We often get caught up in the struggles of daily life, in the distractions of the material world, and we forget that we are made in the image of Elohim, that we carry within us the divine light that created the universe. But the story of Genesis invites us to remember. It calls us to awaken, to rise, and to live in alignment with our true nature. The journey of Adam and Eve is not just a historical event. It is a mirror for our own lives, a reflection of the spiritual path that we are all walking, whether we realize it or not. If you have found yourself here today, watching this video, it is no coincidence. You are being called to remember, to awaken, and to embrace your divine nature. You are not alone in this journey. Just as Adam and Eve were given the promise of redemption, so too are you. The divine light within you is always present, always calling you back to the truth of who you are. And as you walk this path, remember that the light is always within reach, even in the darkest of times. If this video has brought value to your soul, if it has helped you find the light within during these dark days, I invite you to share some energy back with me. Your support, in whatever form it takes, is invaluable to me. Every like, every comment, every subscription is a reminder that we are all part of this journey together. And it gives me the strength to continue creating these videos, to continue sharing the wisdom and light of the Creator with the world. Your support is not just about helping me. It's about joining together on this spiritual journey, about acknowledging the light that lives within each of us and helping that light grow brighter. It's about creating a community of souls who are awakening to the truth of who they are and who are committed to living from that light, no matter the circumstances. Together we can rise, we can awaken, and we can help each other remember the divine essence that is always with us. In the end, the story of Adam and Eve is not just their story. It is the story of all of us. We all fall, we all struggle, but we also rise. And as we rise, we remember. We remember that we are more than just human beings. We are divine souls, born of light, here to live with purpose, to awaken to our true nature, and to bring that light into the world. So, I encourage you to keep walking this path, to keep seeking the light, and to keep sharing it with others. Together, we are all on a journey of healing, of awakening, and of returning to the divine light that is our true home. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this journey. Your energy, your presence, and your support are a gift, and I am deeply grateful. Let us continue to walk together in the light, remembering who we are and helping each other rise to the divine calling within us.